Welcome to the Successful Invisible Podcast, Episode 3. Are your standards too high? Today, we're going to dig a little deeper into your standards and understand what they may be revealing about you. This episode is perfect for anyone who wants an answer to the rhetorical question, are your standards too high? Is struggling to pare down their list of standards? Take an objective look at the background stories behind your standards and understand why I view dating in any serious capacity like the Olympics. Hint, this mindset can help you with your own self-assessment. Welcome to the Successful Invisible. I'm your host, Janelle, a life coach with a niche in relationship coaching. I'm speaking to my professional ladies out there who are 35 plus and seeking their happily ever after and are ready to embrace the challenge and journey of dating with more intentionality. Trigger warning, there is a bit of swearing involved. The inspiration for this episode came from some discussions that I was recently having with a few friends who are in my same demographic. 35 plus, educated professional ladies who are fully self-supporting, independent, etc. Each of them has recently heard that awful statement, maybe if you lowered your standards a little, you'd have more success when it comes to dating, from a well-meaning older woman in their lives. Mother, auntie, church member, whatever. If you don't know what not to say to a grown-ass woman who's open to attracting the right person, this is one of those statements. I personally inwardly cringe and roll my eyes whenever I hear this statement or whenever it's been said to me. However, before we go into the next segment, I'm going to play devil's advocate for those of you who don't see the problem with saying this sort of statement to a woman and how it can... Okay, let's say you have a friend named Diane. Diane is doing well in her life. She's educated, she's independent, self-sufficient, pays her bills on time, has good credit, is able to take vacations during the year, is a responsible, reliable parent if she has children, or is a responsible, reliable caretaker if she has to play that role, etc. The one thing that Diane doesn't have at the moment is a steady guy she's dating. You're her friend, so you likely know the backstory of why someone such as Diane may not have a steady person in her life right now. However, now she's at the place where she's open to attracting the right type of man who would serve as a complement to her lifestyle. So you're chatting with Diane one day, and you casually make that statement about her lowering her standards in order to have more success in dating. Diane doesn't show any type of reaction in the moment, but moves on to another topic, and you two continue talking. Scenario A. Diane took your advice and relaxed her standards. Now, 2 weeks later, she's introducing you to William. You're not really feeling this guy for your friend, as he doesn't seem to be on her level. The next time you and Diane meet up to chat, you keep your comments about William very high level. But newsflash, she's your friend, and she knows that you're holding back on something. However, now you've put yourself in a position to not really be able to offer much criticism since it was you who suggested that she lower her standards in the first place. Scenario B. Diane is possibly quite hurt by your comments and no longer entertains much conversation with you about her love life or things she's looking for. That kind of puts a strain on your relationship in some way. Scenario C. Diane takes your comments to heart and now thinks that there's something potentially wrong with her because she does not like the available men around her who seem to be below her personal set of standards. Now, those are just 3 potential scenarios, but there are countless more possibilities. My point is, words matter. If you do have a friend, such as Diane, who you think has truly unrealistic standards, think about a manner in which to say or bring attention to that with love and respect. Simply saying she needs to lower her standards is likely not the way. In the next segment, we'll dig into some questions similar to those that I would ask during a coaching session if we were exploring the same topic. Welcome to the Questions for Reflection segment. Now let's take a deep dive into some inquiring questions that can help you learn more about yourself, dating, and that larger list of standards. Remember, this is the interactive portion of the episode, and you can click on the link in the show notes to download the worksheet with all of the questions and exercises that will allow you to follow along by recording your responses. If you've already signed up for my email list, the new worksheet will be sent to you when the new episode is published. So if you had trouble paring down your list to 10, put a star by any items that are really causing you a lot of stress or frustration, or lack of certainty about removing them from the list or changing their rank in terms of priority. If you want to refresh yourself on how to pare down your list overall, go back and listen to episode 1 to this podcast and follow those exercises. Now, this could be one item or many items that are causing you some frustration, some tension, lack of certainty of what to do about them, etc. Because these are the standards that probably have the most emotional impact to you and probably have a backstory to them. Side note, all of our standards have a backstory to them, but the ones that are really hard to manage, gauge, or revise usually have the most prominent or impactful backstory to them. Now, I recognize we all have different dating experiences. We all have different experiences from our upbringing that have greatly influenced the manner in which we date. We all have achieved different levels of personal success, and we were all born with different natural characteristics, features, and things that appeal to us. We are all different, and that's okay. I say that to say there is no one-size-fits-all list for any of us. And the more life you've lived, hopefully, the wiser you've become in looking at and really assessing people from all aspects who come into your life experience. And especially in terms of a romantic relationship, when you can say, I like these things or I don't like these things, or this is what I'm looking for in my next person, or these are characteristics that definitely serve as a red flag. So for example, when I was 18 years old and went to undergrad after high school, I went to a really big football school. I am a University of Miami alumni. Go Canes. So what was around me was a plethora of guys who were athletes. And really, when I went off to college, that was the first time I was able to date. Side note, I have older parents. They were pretty strict. As an adult, I definitely respect the decisions they made, so I wasn't allowed to date in high school. So I didn't really have exposure to dating until I went to college. And the type of guys my age, as well as guys that were older than me that were approaching me in a big city, aka the cocaine capital. No, I've never done any type of drugs. Just, if you know Miami, you understand what I'm talking about. It's a city where there's a lot of fast money, fast cars, fast life, fast everything. And I'm attending a pretty infamous school where football is king. So guess who I like to date with, deal with, flirt with, and really was my first exposure to relationships? You guessed it, football players. Now, that was an interesting experience and actually a really great experience overall. No horror stories, thankfully, but it shaped and molded some of the items on my list. So in this example, fit and tall are the two main physical characteristics. Actually, they're the only physical characteristics because in our top 10, we're only supposed to have 2 physical characteristics. Those are the 2 physical characteristics in my top 10 list of standards because that was my initial exposure. It was also a positive one when I started dating. So that is something that has always stuck with me. Now, as I referenced in the first episode, the most flexible you should be are around the physical standards that are on your list. So if a guy isn't particularly tall or isn't in the, doesn't have a rippling six pack, I by no means would exclude them if they're coming at me in a very respectful manner and we have a good energetic connection. That doesn't mean I would not go out and date this person. That's just saying on a blank piece of paper of my list of standards, my two physical characteristics that catch my eye the easiest are a guy who is fit and tall, race or ethnic background notwithstanding. Now, going back to those list of characteristics, especially where you have a few that you can't quite put your finger on how to adjust or even how to eliminate, it's time to understand this is the reason. Like me, these items could be rooted in dating behavior or background story or backstory from when you first started dating as an adult or even younger if you were allowed to do so in middle school and high school. That means you've developed certain dating patterns or things that you liked even earlier. So before we proceed, I want to say a warning about this upcoming exercise. If you are at a place where you're not comfortable exploring those backstories or it causes a lot of discomfort, stress, or pain, stop immediately. You may want to reach out to a mental health professional to dive deeper from that perspective and know that there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But for the purposes of this podcast, please only proceed if you're comfortable doing so. Question number 1. How many items from your larger list of must-haves or standards do you need to put a star by because you can't really readily place them, revise them, or remove them from your list? Actually count them at this point, so you have a tangible number to understand what you're working with. So for example, if your overarching list has 100 items on them, you have the main, maybe let's say 15. After listening to my first episode and following those exercises, you were able to pare it down to about 15. And there's about 5 that you really can't put your finger on what to do with them. Those are the 5 that you're counting. Just put a star by them and count them. Question 2. For each item on your list that you've put a star beside, what is a simple 3 sentences backstory for those items? Here, I want you to take a step back, once again, only if you're comfortable doing so, and look at those things that are really hard to navigate on your list and see them from the perspective of, okay, I want to come up with 3 sentences that describe the backstory to this line item. Just 3 sentences, meaning just the facts. Try to take the emotion out of it. You'll get the most out of this exercise when you can do that. Just stick to the facts. So here's an example. Say communication is an item on your list, but not a top 10, but you're kicking around whether it should be a top 10 item. So say you once dated a guy named Josh and things didn't work out in that relationship. Your backstory may be something like this. Sentence 1, I was in a relationship with Josh for 3 years. Sentence 2, Josh was not an effective communicator of his emotions and often got quiet or shut down when we didn't agree upon something. Sentence 3, the result of that was Josh and I had a lot of communication issues and disconnects within our relationship. Those are your 3 sentences. No, the purpose of this is not the blame game. The purpose of this is to take a step back and make an assessment of why this item may be on the list, who it is potentially linked to in terms of a person you've dated in the past, or maybe it's been several people. And this will also give you a chance to start identifying patterns that you weren't aware of before. For purposes of this exercise and this question, I want this to be clear-cut and simple because approaching it from this perspective, as I said, will allow you greater awareness. Question 3. With this new perspective about the backstory of the items that were starred, what priority do they now have on my list? So this is your chance to revise, edit, and rethink those original 10 items on your main list of standards. Know that it's perfectly okay if nothing changes. At minimum, you now have greater insight into why certain things on your larger list of standards were hard for you to initially move up or down in terms of priority. You may also realize that one of those items that you starred and were able to come up with 3 sentences about the backstory roll up into a larger item that's already on your top 10, or a couple of these items that you starred can all be grouped together and roll up to a single item that should be on your top 10. Point is, this is very helpful in terms of self-reflection, self-awareness, and understanding what you really want in your next relationship. So in the next segment, I want to share some of my personal thoughts on viewing dating like the Olympics. So welcome to the Just My Thoughts portion of the episode. And I really want to look at the question that I asked at the beginning. Are your standards too high? Now I'm going to take a slightly different approach to this. And from the beginning say, no, I don't think your standards are too high. But I have a different view of dating. I think of dating meaning intentional, serious dating for any type of long-term commitment like the Olympics. Think about it. Everyone who even goes to the Olympics has to qualify. They had to already be exceedingly good in their sport to even be picked on their teams for whatever country they represent to go to the Olympics. I think this is a phenomenal start or lens to view dating from as a grown-ass person. Ask yourself, do I qualify for the Olympics? Or translation, am I in the place to attract what I say I want in a partner? And I feel this starts with self-assessment, and it helps with self-assessment. So you need to take an honest step back and self-evaluation about where you are at in life, what you have to offer, what you're bringing to the table, what potential hurdles you may need to overcome to be in the place where you want to be, to attract what you say you want. Once you've been able to make that assessment and literally write down a list of things that you yourself have to bring to the table, that's materially, emotionally, etc., then you know how you qualify for the Olympic team. So now it's time to look at attracting the right teammates, using this metaphor. If you're not feeling as if you can qualify for the Olympic team just right now, that's okay, because this is a great place to start doing the self-work. Remember, this is never about another person. And I'm approaching this podcast from the position of it's never about what someone else needs to do. This is always about what are you doing, where are you at, and what are you attracting. This is always about starting with you to make sure you're in alignment energetically to attract the type of partner that you say you want. Please know that formal education and a better paying job might not necessarily be what it takes to qualify for the Olympic team. Translation, attract what you want. Let's take an easy example. Say you're a woman who wants a man who earns 6 or even 7 figures a year. First things first, the legitimate question I would ask is, what do you do to earn money? What places do you frequent that are in alignment with the men who are earning at that income level? How much do you understand about how money works? How to earn it, grow it, and invest it? All of these questions can be taken into consideration during your own personal self-assessment, and you can start becoming more proficient in any area that you choose. I would say the best way to approach this in doing this personal exercise of looking at dating like the Olympics and what you have to bring to the table, or how do you qualify for the team, don't try to do everything. And it's not about doing everything. It's about starting at the place that resonates with you the most. So in this example, I would say, to me, the most important thing would be start understanding how money works, how to generate multiple always legitimate, streams of income, and making sure you are in a financial position where your credit is good and you are able to do certain things. It's a great place to start. You may then further see that, more education or professional training is necessary so you can earn more money in a job or for a business. Hiring coaches, hiring consultants if you already have a business to help it grow. All of those things may come into account and will ultimately influence what you are presenting to the world, what you have to bring to the table, and who you are in alignment to attract. Now, to be fair, let's put the shoe on the other foot. When looking at this analogy of seeing dating in any serious capacity like the Olympics, if you're a man and you want a woman out here that's the baddest thing smoking, she has an amazing body, she looks amazing, she's someone you can brag about physically. She also has a lot of her own things and you don't feel that you have to do for her, but if you did for her in any material capacity, it would be solely by choice. Okay, take a step back. Do you have a body like a superhero? Maybe you need to look to see if you have a six-pack before demanding that in someone else. Do you qualify for your own Olympic team? Imagine meeting this perfect woman. Do you even have the amount of money that you feel would be appropriate to provide to her for even a gift if she's able to provide for her own needs? Once again, this is not about someone else judging you or criticizing you. This is solely about you being honest with yourself to see if you can qualify for the Olympic team. So that's just my thoughts for now. No, once again, I don't think your standards are too high, but I feel that seeing serious dating for any long-term commitment like the Olympics and asking yourself how do you qualify for the team can be a really great place to start in understanding where you're at on your own personal journey. Ponder that as you go out and date in this crazy modern world. Thank you for taking the time to join me today on this episode of The Successful Invisible. I'm your host, Janelle, and I hope you gained meaningful insights from today's episode. Follow me on Instagram at The Successful Invisible. It's all one word. I look forward to you joining me again on next week's episode. Until then, I'm your host, Janelle, signing off for now.